Welcome everyone. We are on workshop 2 in our Rise Out of 2020 series. And today we are talking about one of the key themes of 2020's ascension process, and that is truth, right? We're going to be talking about it from a few different angles. We're going to talk about truth and ascension and how it's related to rising out of 2020. Why? Because it's a key piece in coming into a more rapid, expanded experience of ascension. It's a good way to put it. We're going to talk about our higher self truth, and we're going to talk about collective truth and truth in inverted commas and how we get into highest service around that, right? And we're also going to talk about the fluidity of truth. Okay, so I want to welcome the replay viewers because you're the ones who are here first. I welcome everyone who's jumping on because people are jumping on. As you come on, say hello so that I can actually welcome you personally and I can direct the content to you if I happen to know you, because I know a lot of you in here. So I'm going to launch straight into our content today. But I want to take a moment to preface it by saying some of what I'm going to say today is mastery level, right? Like, okay, time to go next level. And some of it, some of the base tools, you may have heard before. I hope you've heard them before because no one in here is a newbie, right? Having said that, here's where it's all coming down. 2020 is asking us to commit to ourselves at new levels, right? And if you are one of those people, and many of you are in here, if you are one of those people who has committed to yourself that you will follow your higher self, that you will follow divine guidance, right? If you have chosen that path and made a vow to yourself at some point, all of your vows are being brought forwards big time at the moment. And I say that in present time, but also our past life vows are really coming up, whether that's to clear or to step into. Either way, vows are really coming to the forefront. What you promise yourself is really being brought right into your face. So if you are one of the people who has said, I commit to following my higher self, the guidance of my higher self, how many of you can relate to that? Because if you can, I want to hear about it. How many of you are in that boat? I'm committed to following my higher self truth. If that is you, then you in 2020 are going to clearly see any time that you're not doing that, right? For a start, your higher self truth is actually broadcasting at a much louder frequency this year with the expanded ascension energies. Second of all, when you are not following your higher guidance, and we all do it from time to time, right? The goal is to not, right? But I'm not saying that there's not perfectionism around this, but when we don't, when we know the truth, but our ego mind is jumping in and putting us through hoops or putting the brakes on or telling us that it's not that simple or it's not right or whatever, because the ego can tell us all sorts of stories. It loves to complicate. It loves to keep us inert and where we're safe in a familiar zone. It does all sorts of things, right? All in an effort to keep us safe and thriving. But the point is, if that is happening to you, when you get those breaks, when you store yourself out at the moment in your ascension process, you will notice it. It will not be subtle. It will not be subtle in your body and the way you feel, the automatic reaction, and it will not be subtle in the clear feedback in the 3D classroom of your life, right? When you have made a commitment to follow higher self and your own sense of truth, we're going to talk a lot about truth today, and you don't follow through on that in the midst of an ascension process. Now, the brakes were all, like when you put the brakes on yourself in the past, you were still going to see it, but you could kind of putter along, right? You could kind of continue to shrug it off. That is not going to be the case moving forwards. If you're making agreements with yourself to follow higher guidance and you don't, or You'll be lovingly nudged big time. It will be clear to you. It will come all the time. And the answer to your higher guidance is also rapidly accelerated. Okay, so I bring this forwards because some of what I share today is about really committing and stepping onto your path again with commitment, with intention. We spoke yesterday about pillars, the 5 main pillars we work with. Energy attention is one of them, and it's very powerful, right? But you want to have clear, discerned intention, right? And if you do that, if you say, right, I am recommitting to this at a whole new level, and I'm actually going to walk my talk, I'm going to focus on it, you will have rapid communication. All right. Now, the more you elevate your energetic lived experience, the faster and more fluid that communication becomes. Okay. So the more that you dive deeper at the moment into your energetic upgrades, the more your higher self communication will rapidly exchange, will be rapidly present. I'll give you a funny example just from 10-15 minutes ago. I have a really huge day of teaching. I'm teaching all day, nearly back to back until 7 p.m. tonight, which is kind of unusual for me. Right? And I was in between a class before this and now, and I decided I'd go sit out in the sun, ground, get my energy back into the earth for 20 minutes, right? And I had my cup of coffee with me, and I was kind of having a little joke. I actually said to my husband, wow, it's such a huge day for me. I'm worried I'm going to drink too much coffee. I need to stop now and move to tea, which was total truth in my body. We're going to talk about truth in the body, right? Need to move to herbal tea now because I'm not a great coffee person. 1, maybe 2, but I can't do any more than that. So I already knew that was my truth. I go outside, I sit on the lawn with my nearly empty second cup of coffee. It was about halfway done, right? Ha ha, I don't think so. I sit down, and the very first thing that happens is a fly flies out of nowhere and lands in my coffee. So I had to dip it out onto the grass. But it's such a little example. This is what I want to point out to you. When you're higher guidance, when you and she are in fluid dialogue, the feedback in the 3D world is instantaneous. Higher self says, you know what? It's a no for you to drink a lot of coffee today. You could go that path. Ego's going, maybe I need the coffee. No, right? And then literally 2 minutes later, there it is being enforced in 3D for you again. Right? Now, I'm in very strong relationship with higher self. Right? I am not in one of those places where I have to tune in. It's like there all the time. But so it's really, really fast, right? And that is the goal. That is actually where we're working towards with ascension. Hello to everyone jumping on. Say hello so I can welcome you, right? That is one of our goals with ascension, right? So many of us are in this position, and probably a lot of you, some of you are already where I am, right? And you're just maybe got the brakes on sometimes and not fluidly exchanging with your higher self as much as you should. Some of you are committed to your higher selves, giving you your truth, but are like, I have to go and tune in. Like I hear my higher self in meditation, or I need to go into nature, or I need to do some specific process and turn inwards, right? I was speaking to the priestesses today on our call this morning. We were talking about being in fluid exchange with higher self with our eyes open versus, I need to close my eyes and tune in, right? And the point is, you want to get to this point where it's not even a tuning in. This is part of the ascension journey. We're not even tuning in. We're living embodied in that higher self fluid exchange all the time, consistently, right? Now, we are not always, 99% of us on the planet, even if we are at that point, always following through on our higher guidance. This is the funny piece, right? How often do we stall out? We have a clear, inspired action. Higher self is often quite brief and very direct on what she wants. Don't drink more coffee. right? Go sit in the sun. No, go write this email. Don't make that phone call, right? It's not like rocket science. And for those of you who want some tools, I'm going to give you some today, right? And you just put them into practice with consistency. But the work, the mastery, is in following through. How fluidly can you react and respond to the higher self guidance, right? How many of you know your higher guidance and are stalled out on it at times, for days, for weeks, heaven forbid for months, right? But like stalled out. And how patient is our higher self truth? Just keeps giving it to us. Now, our ego can jump in, right? And this is the second level of mastery, is understanding what is ego and what is higher self, right? Our higher self can be consistent in its guidance, but it will give it without judgment, without a sense of persecution, without the control mechanisms of blame, shame, or guilt. Okay, it does it devoid of that. Your higher self operates way past all of that. As far as it's concerned, life is experience. It's no good or bad, So it's not going to be berating you, but it will be consistent, right? Truth in our bodies is a consistent core feeling, pinging, right? Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to guide you on some exercises for that. It'll just keep going. Now, the ego, on the other hand, can use all sorts of learnt strategies that have been in the collective for the last couple of thousand years around blaming ourselves or shaming ourselves or guilting ourselves or making ourselves feel crappy or not worthy or not good enough or berating, whatever it is. Those voices, and we have many voices within us. We are very multifaceted beings. Multifaceted and multidimensional, very complex grid of energies, right? But we have many facets to ourselves, okay? Now, a lot of those facets, probably the majority of those facets, have access to hearing our higher self guidance, but often choose to interpret it and deliver it to us with their lens, whatever their lens is, right? And the goal here is to learn to hear higher self from either an aspect of your psyche that is specifically aligned to your higher self frequency as an interpreter. You can cultivate that. Or directly to your higher self guidance, right? And there's many ways to do that too. And your higher self guidance communicates first and foremost from the seat of your power on the physical plane, your body, your embodied position. So we're going to start there today, okay? So why am I bringing truth to the table? Okay, there's a few reasons. The first is truth is the hot theme in 2020. Whoa, collectively, what has risen is a massive breakdown of truth in our collective, right? Who has truth? Who knows truth? What is truth? Who do we trust to give us truth? Right? All of that has just, okay? And part of this is because the collective needs to heal around it, but part of it is our ascensional work about our truth comes from our higher selves, right? And so we are being asked to cultivate a working, lived, real, embodied experience, not a, oh, I hear my higher self truth isolated on my meditation mat or when I journal, right? And then I get the download and it takes me like weeks, sometimes longer, to respond to it, to react to it, to enact the guidance, right? We're being asked to move way beyond that into a fluid exchange. The invitation here, the mastery here is how fast can you respond to higher self and enact it on this plane, because that is the ascensional process of bringing our higher selves into physical form to rise into 5D, to experience 5D perspective, right? And I talked about how the planes are happening multidimensionally, overlaying each other at the moment, all on our physical universe right now. Yeah? Yesterday. So if you didn't see yesterday's workshop, you might want to go and check it out. So when you make a commitment to higher self this year, I'm going to follow my higher self guidance. Those of you who have done that, and it's probably the majority of you, may have noticed when you stall out that, holy crap, the brakes are on everywhere, right? When I deviate from higher self, even for an hour, I notice it straight away. Not only do I notice it in my body, but everything in my life grinds to a sudden halt. Right? And I am not the only one. Right? I was talking to one of our priestesses this week, and she had been having very clear guidance for months that she was going to make massive life changes, right? And of course, her ego was scared of that, and she was kind of wobbling out. And yet, every time she was with higher guidance, it was crystal clear. She was not incongruent in the slightest, right? And so, but it took her some time to get her shizzle together. She stalled out. She made things more complicated than they needed to be. She took a lot longer on some things than in hindsight she could have. And she said later she laughed, right, as soon as it happened. So one of the massive changes that she needed to do from her higher self was to finish the job she was in, to stop her stable career done, right? That's a scary leap for the ego, right? Particularly in 2020, that can be extra scary because there's a lot of themes around survival and uncertainty cropping up. Yeah. So and she was trying to sell houses and make sea changes and do all this stuff, and she was feeling really stalled out. She finally did the leap of faith, followed her higher self. It took a while, but on her first day of no longer being employed, she looked around her and she was in her new house by the sea. That morning, she sold the house in London that had been dragged on for 6 months, done. And by 9:20 in the morning, a client had already reached out to her with a divinely inspired, like an old past client, a divinely inspired project for January after she'd had her sabbatical rest, which was part of what her higher guidance wanted her to do. Like literally it all fell in place within an hour or two on the first day that she finally was living the truth of her higher self. Okay, this is not like some, oh my God, story. This is normal, right? This is, I can tell you a gazillion of them. This is the invitation. If you want to walk in higher self and you're in an ascension process, you're going to be asked to really go there, right? To walk your talk with commitment. And the 3D world around you is going to give you all of the reflections back that you need extremely fast, within minutes. Okay. So let's have a talk about a couple of things. That's like, we're going to talk about how to cultivate that relationship today, how to lean into it at whole new levels. Some of you have some of the tools, and what I just said is your takeaway today, your goddess wink, right? And I want to talk about higher service in the collective right now around truth, because it's a hot word, it's highly contested, and in our exiting trends of duality and polarity, it's completely up in the collective. Everyone's got opinions on what is truth, right? So we're going to talk about that, like where is the highest service? Where is the higher timeline in that? And we're going to talk about an edgy topic. We're going to talk about the fluidity of truth. So let's get going. You are a quiet group today. I can see you're all on, but you're quiet. Please feel free to jump in if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have a reflection, or if you just want to say hi. Okay, so let's talk about, what do we talk about first? Let's talk about those 5 tools. Let's get right straight into the tools and get moving. So the first tool, like this is all around cultivating fluid exchange between you and your higher self, living it. Now, I preface all of these tools by saying the speed with which you will transform, the speed with which your skill set will rapidly up level is equal to the capacity you have to follow and enact the higher self guidance. Okay? So this is why I'm saying you really want to walk your talk. Now, one of the tools that you can do is to play what we call in Shindara the higher self game, and to play it every single day for at least 30 days. Like, this is the challenge, right? Now, I'm going to teach you your pleasure pulse and your yes and your no in your body. But essentially, once you have that skill set, you're going to ask every day, not every question, right? I'm saying you want to do this with commitment. So I want you to ask your higher self questions, yes or no questions. And you're going to learn to feel and hear the yes and no in your body. Okay, some of you already have that skill set, so you're just going to enact this. Now, here is the two power-ups on this. One, if you want to evolve your communication channel with your higher self, you must follow through on the guidance. Okay, if you do the question, should I have a salad for lunch? And higher self says yes, and then you spot the pizza. If you ask that question of higher self in this game, and it said go the salad, then you go the salad. Right? If you really want to establish clear communication between your higher self, if you really want to amplify the yeses and nos in your body to the point that you don't have to tune in, they're just resonating in your body all the time, clearly, in your conscious awareness all the time. Okay? Now, the reason I say that is so many times we hear our higher self and we don't follow the advice. And that actually creates the disconnect in our communication pathway. So you don't do that in this game, okay? So only ask questions that you're committed to following through on, okay? The second thing is do not ask big life-changing questions in this particular game. A, because they're going to be harder to follow through on, but B, because when we're establishing new elevated levels to our higher self, the place where our higher self is communicating clearly to us is in the space behind our emotional static. Okay, so on the surface of our energetic body, first few layers in, right, we have all our emotions that are running, all our thought processes, the psyche, all of these layers. We're feeling all sorts of things. Now, if it's a big life question that you're asking, you're going to be feeling a lot of things about it. You're going to be thinking a lot of things about it, right? Your intuitive guidance, your higher self, sits behind that emotional turbulence, in the space behind it, right? Which is why we teach or we learn, particularly as a weaver, but as any energetic practitioner, how to enact emotional alchemy to clear and move emotion through our body quickly, easily, not jamming it in our bodies, holding it in, not wanting to feel it or really acknowledge it, or hope it just go away. That's the absolute worst thing we can do, right? We alchemize it, we move it, we release it and create the space, because it's in the spaciousness behind where you'll hear your higher self so clearly. Okay, so when you're playing this higher self game, do not ask big emotional questions. Should I leave my partner? Should I move to a new country, right? Just while you're playing this game at the moment, because you are actually training, you're in training an energetic conduit between yourself, your higher self, and your conscious ego awareness, right? And that is a process. You're actually doing a very specific and training skill to establish a very strong conduit, okay? So you want to enact it, and you want to practice feeling the response and the communication and letting it get stronger, okay? So I've already spoken about the space behind. This is another tool, right? If you want to hear your higher self, make sure your field is clear. Make sure you're not running a lot of high emotions. And if you are, you need to enact some emotional alchemy work. as a weaver in the weaving, you would learn that, but I have taught it here in the public group. So if you're not sure what I mean by being willing to feel the feelings and allow them to move, and exactly how to do that as a process, ask me to tag you here in the emotional alchemy work. But say in the emotional alchemy work, because sometimes you guys just say yes. And in the comment thread, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what that was for. Okay. So you want to practice reaching your space behind your emotional turbulence, right? Okay, what else do I want to say? Right, I want to talk about the pleasure pulse. Yesterday we spoke about the energetic system of our bodies like any other body system, like a circulatory system, like a respiratory system. They have, and your energetic body is no different, an autonomic level of what it's doing, right? And in your energetic body, there's a couple actually. You're receiving and projecting all the time. Spoke about that yesterday too. You also have a pleasure pulse, which is in direct communication always, constantly with your highest self. Yeah? And it is always communicating yes, no, yes, no, all the time. It's running whether you're consciously aware of it or not. You're never disconnected from it. You may not be able to feel it, you may feel numbed out, you may not know, okay, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's still going, okay? You're just not perceiving it. So, the yes, what does a yes feel like in your body? A yes on the surface, let's do the surface level first. First response. A yes feels like expansion, feels like a tug forwards. It feels like generally there's a joyous sensation to it, right? What else do you want to say about it? Mostly it feels like an expansion, feels like a and a tug forwards, like a pull, right? Or a tug up. Your curiosity is up. Your heart feels engaged. You've got yes, right? A no feels like a contraction in your energy, okay? A moving away from, like shut down, okay? And one way to first experience this, and this is the very first level because it has nuance. I'll give you a couple nuances today, but start here, okay? So a way to do it is to pick a question, like, okay, for those who have children, like a saying, I love my children heart and soul, right? Is that truth? Everybody's going to go, yes, right? It's going to respond to it. Okay, and a question that is a no, like a clear no in your body would be the same, right? Like if you imagined yourself walking out and deserting your children, it'd be an immediate in your body to a no, right? That's a very surface level of a yes and no. You already all have experienced this, I promise you, every single one, right? Now here's a bit of nuance to the yes and the no. Sometimes our ego can hijack us a little bit, right? So underneath that immediate yes and ooh no, right, is actually what you want to learn to reach for is the sense, the constant ring of truth. Yes, truth, okay? Because sometimes a yes can feel like truth in your body even though your ego is freaking out. What? That's not truth. But in your body, you're like, yep, that's actually truth. He doesn't want to hear it, but your body is going, that's truth. If you really tune in, that expansion is actually there, okay? And it's the same with discerning a true no, okay? You need to tune into the sense of truth. You can be a no even though you want it to be a yes. And often we do that. Often we overcomplicate things. Our body goes, no, you don't need to do that. But our brain goes, yeah, of course I need to do that, right? So we get caught up in that. So I want you to practice underneath in the mastery level, feeling your yeses and nos as the steady ring of truth underneath. And your higher self will keep tinging at it. It's consistent. It's patient, right? You go, oh, that's that thing I meant to be doing again. I bet you all know what I'm talking about. And even though you're super quiet today, I guarantee you all know what I mean. Right? Oh, there it is again. Oh, it's that thing again. Right? And if you have said to yourself at some point, yeah, I'm committed to following my higher self guidance, that's how I'm going to live my life, right? And you are on an ascension process and you are not following the higher guidance that you just committed to yourself, you will absolutely notice it big time in the 3D classroom of your life, right? You will be stalled out. You will have breaks and you will be frustrated. You will notice your body responding quite aggressively to it too. It will not be subtle. Okay, so those that's like the big work, right? If you actually did that practice with commitment, and I get actually our priestess students to do that because it changes everything, right? And they do it when they're learning Akashic records and some other work. But like, that's a really big piece. If you commit to that with dedication, it will shift, it will elevate. At the moment, everyone's limitations need to drop. The veil needs to shift on what is and isn't possible. And I guarantee you a radical acceleration in your higher self fluid communication if you actually commit to doing this work, even though you've probably heard that work before, right? The other two things I'm going to suggest that you do as frames around that particular practice is ask a question every day. Always have a question on the go, always. And that's kind of aside to the yes and no one, but always have a question and always be expecting the answer. Okay? If you ask and you shall receive, right? But it's actually truth. The divine nature will never override our free will choice. This is why we know it's higher divine. It will never override free will choice. Right? Your guides are always there, but they're not going to step in and overtake. You actually, and your higher self is actually the same, right? Your free will in your human experience in this incarnation gets to have the last say, the final say. So if you want guidance, ask. It really is that simple. Ask, ask, ask all the time. Okay? And I guarantee you at the moment you'll be getting the answers back. Okay? If you feel like sharing an experience, because I actually get a feeling that you all are having these experiences. As I'm saying this, you're all going, oh yeah, right, yeah, I remember that. I remember that just today, just yesterday, right? Ask, okay? And the other one is set a morning practice to invoke your higher self every single day into your awareness. Now, in Shindara, as an energy weaver, I teach you how to invoke energies into your body from the energetic perspective and the magic perspective, right? Having said that, you can invoke your higher self into your body through prayer, through intention, through visualization, through breath, right? Use your tool set, but call your higher self to walk in your body with you every single day. Okay? Again, not highly new, but what I'm saying here is what the process here is, how much dedication and commitment will you give to your higher self? How much will you commit to doing the work of being in a devoted relationship with her? Because you can't just give it lip service. You've actually got to do the work and walk your talk. And it is rapid when you do. And to be honest, it's kind of rapid when you don't, okay, if you've made the commitment. Okay, so that is really around following your internal truth and your guidance. And that's like a chunk one. That's a piece, okay? Now, I want to talk briefly about the fluidity of truth. And this actually came up recently. So about a month ago, I was doing an Akashic record consult with an ascended master, Hathor, actually. And I'm not going to go into what the hell that all means, but it's something that I was doing for some work I was channeling for a class I was giving. Okay, with some advanced students, right? So Anyway, I was talking to Heather about truth, and I got all these interesting downloads. And at one point, I was like, I can't say that. And she was like, challenged me. She said, yeah, you could say this. So I'm going to share a little bit of it. I'm going to share the whole. It was a big process. I'm not going to share it all with you, but I want to talk about some of the stuff she was sharing with me. She was sharing with me this idea that there is very, very few definitive higher capital T truths in the universe, right? There is the truth, capital T, that you are a divine being having the human experience, that you are of divine, right? That is truth. And there is some divine, capital T, truth around energetic, universal, divine law governing the framework of the universe that we exist in. A lot could be said about that. That's a massive topic, as I'm sure you all know. But other than that, which is actually minuscule on the massive scale of things that get listed as truth, right? By ourselves, by others, by society, by community, whatever. A lot of it is actually a fluid body that is a collection of choices that we choose to take on, that we give our allegiance to. And when we choose to take on a thought, a belief, and make it truth, give our allegiance to it, even if at the beginning we do it with faith, because we don't have anything else to back it up, it just feels like it should be truth. So we give our allegiance to it. When we do that, the orbiting reality of our existence manifests that truth, right, into 3D, and that is what we call proof. As we gain proof, it's easier and easier for our ego to assign more and more allegiance to that construct as truth and hold it. Truth and hold it, all right? And that holding of truth, that fluid collection of choices that we make, millions of them, makes up the reality that we perceive around us. Okay, so if we sit with that idea, then we want to be really clear that we want to be very disciplined about what we choose to take on truth, and that truth is very fluid and malleable, and that we can shift truth. In fact, when we go through any personal growth experience, we actually take on and give our allegiance to new sets of truth, right? It happens as we in the transformational process. And as we align to that, as we give our allegiance to the truth, as we hold it as possibility, more and more, it manifests proof in our orbiting reality, which strengthens our allegiance, which makes it more concrete, right? And slowly, slowly, it becomes the default, right? We entrain to it. But it's actually fluid, which means that we can shift and change that, and we do it across our lifetimes. Naturally, you will have seen it, like there's an organic evolution of what we hold as our body of truth. That is accelerating right now with ascension. My guess is that nearly all of you are having truth challenged on different levels. And often truth around what is possible and limitations, because that's all going right out the window, right? And so I want to bring forwards that what you are being invited into during this period of whitewater rapids in ascension, this rush that we're going on, is to think about, well, what are my collections of truth and what do I choose to take on? Now, when you want to give your allegiance to a truth, at the beginning there is the concept of faith, right? Because you don't have the proof in front of you to just give your ego the safety it wants, right? So it's a little harder at the beginning until the proof starts to manifest. But I bring this forwards because there is so much potential and scope here for what everyone is allowed to pick as truth, because there is no allowed. It's your choice. free will choice. Okay, so I put that out there. I dropped that as a little, I would love to hear people's thoughts on that. I'm super curious how that lands for everyone. You're all here and so freaking quiet today. Hello. I'm not used to just no interaction. Okay, so let's move on then to talking about our last piece, which is our higher service here as light workers on the planet in relation to truth, right? Our discernment of truth, as I just spoke about, is a very fluid construct, and where our egos are all feeling very uncertain. They don't have the certainty, they don't have the safety, and they don't have the established, agreed upon collective truth in the collective to tie to, which has created a stunning amount of seeming proof outside, right? All of that has been blown up, right? So, and what is coming forwards collectively as everyone enters the ascension process is their own re-examination of their reality and truth together, right? Over and over and over. And everyone is being stretched into different levels of growth. Now, what's happened so far in 2020 is we have had some legitimate experiences of the whole collective is experiencing something in rapid succession together. Worldwide theme, right? That's actually, and I think we're going to have another one or two of them. That's kind of what I'm getting coming through, that there'll be some more global ones like that. But notice now what's happening right now in present moment. The themes are still running, but not everywhere in the world is in intense crisis at the same time. It's not up in everyone's face at the exact same moment, right? And so here is where we get to no longer just ride the collective roller coaster, which is what's been happening in 2020 so far. And if you are a spongy empath who can easily get caught up in just absorbing energy like a little sponge, right, then 2020 is like being a roller coaster of emotional craziness, right? Because all you need to do is sit and soak up and go down some internet rabbit hole on anything and absorb it right into your body, right? Depending on what you do, like, and I've done it myself, and I'm even aware while I'm doing it, this is a bad idea. My house is going, turn around, go back, wrong way, right? And I can watch as my energy absorbs the whole collective thing, and I'm super clear it's not mine, right? And I'm like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Now, over time, you want discernment on that, and you want to stop doing that, right? But there will be periods, because media and social media at the moment, it's always like this, but at the moment, so up, right, is so magnetic and so absorbent and kind of viral, right? So if one group of people is in a massive heightened state, it is extremely easy for an empath to go down that rabbit hole and own that, to jump in beside them, legitimately, energetically, right? And here is the highest service piece, because that is actually not in highest service. We have a kind of messed up view, often as an empath, that if I don't feel as shitty as you do, and I don't jump in beside you and drown along beside you, that I'm a selfish person, right? And that is just plainly not truth, okay? Here we go, truth. I'm going to invite you to take that on as not truth, right? Higher service, right? So if there is a group of people going through a massive crisis, right? And those people are sharing their reality and their perceptions of their truth legitimately and authentically in their experience, right, on social media. And they're using the proof of whatever's around them to actually justify their truth to themselves. And they're not malicious. They're not trying to spread fear or scarcity or anything. This is legitimately how they're seeing it, how it feels to them. And they can use really convincing truth. And it's not that it's not truth, it's just the lens that they're seeing it through, right? So they might use astrological alignments and energetic forecasts and Schumann resonances and galactic council transmissions and prophecies, and like the whole thing goes on, right, to justify why what is happening in their reality is truth, right? To back up their experience. We all do this. Like, I am not for a moment saying this is like of some lower nature. I'm saying this is often what happens on social media, right? Then as a spongy empath, so it's not about them. They are 100% entitled to share their truth, right? To share their truth wherever they want to share their truth, right? To speak what is real for them. But as a receiver of these messages, as a light worker who is stepping into mastery at a much higher level, you want discernment around that. Because if you go as a spongy empath, if you go down the path of evil's winning and the world is being overtaken and oh my God, it's all crap, and like you can go down the rabbit hole and you follow the downward trend. When that happens, and we've all been kind of doing that, we've been in training to collective energy a lot of the time and being overwhelmed by it in 2020, that can no longer happen, right? It will, but like I'm suggesting that we really hold ourselves to a higher standard. When everyone does that, we make it so much harder for the higher timeline to be held and manifested, because who the hell's holding it, right? So here is the request. Here is the highest service request in this. When you are tempted to go down the rabbit hole on whatever the story is, the chaos or whatever it is, I want you to first pause and tune into your body. Is this truth for me in this moment, right? Regardless of the fact of what the astrological alignment is right now and the Schumann resonance and everything, how do I feel in my body? How does my life look around me in my little pocket, in my family, in my home, in my community? What is the actual reality that I am living in my body, right? Now, legitimately, if you are in a period of high stress, of survival, of turbulence, of chaos, of overwhelm, etc., then that is your reality, and you need to do a pathway to work with that, and that's not the discussion here today. But if you're not, if when you tune in you go, that's actually not how I'm experiencing it. I'm not experiencing what that collective is experiencing. And as energetic magicians, many of you are not experiencing exactly what the collective is experiencing. You're perceiving it at different levels, right? But if you take it on and own it as truth, eek, right? And here's the higher service piece. If that's not truth in your body, then for the love of all things, step into higher service and hold the higher timeline, all right? Hold the higher timeline, hold the different perspective, hold the 5D perspective, hold the energetic truth as a powerful frequency holder, right? Because this is one of the light workers' key responsibilities or jobs of service, is to hold our frequencies, right? Now, for the light workers that are in the chaos, that are in the survival issues, that are in the, oh my God, it is actually extremely hard when you're in that place to hold the higher timelines, legitimately, right? In the fires in Australia here, when we were on evacuation over and over, and it was coming at us, right? Really hard for me to hold the higher frequencies, okay? So legitimately, those light workers need those of us who are not living that to hold the higher timeline, so we have something and we can get our head above water to align to come back to, right? That is higher service, right? It is higher service to hold the higher timeline, to hold that frequency, to be able to hold space for them, to be able to give them experiences or moments or glimpses at contrast, to hold those tools for them so that they can find their way back into higher service, right? So I really want everyone, the invitation here, I really want, it's a mastery level piece, but it's where all of the light workers in this community, all of the energy weavers really want to be at, where they need to be, okay? And it's discerning what is truth for you. And if your truth is, I actually feel kind of spacious today. Before I started reading all that, I actually felt pretty good today. Then I want you to hold the higher timeline. Hold the frequency. Don't jump in and drown beside the collective, okay? Because as spongy empaths, it's easy to do, and it does not serve. Okay, I'd love to hear how that lands too, because I feel like I'm laying down calling the shots today on you a little bit. Hopefully I'm doing it lovingly, right? But this is the whole discussion around truth and ascension and what is being asked of us. Okay? So I'm really at the end of the content. If you've got questions, you're welcome to ask them. What I want to say in closing here is that if you are interested, and I didn't talk a lot about it today very intentionally, but if you are interested in becoming an energy weaver, which is the next generation of energetic practitioner, big time, the energy weavers on the planet are not working with energy at the same level as the old paradigm. They're not, okay? And the other thing that they are is they're running huge amounts of higher self energy in their body all the time. They are in much higher fluid communication because we invoke it all the time as a fuel source at the base of our weaves, right? It's part of what gives power to our magic, right? If that is interesting to you, then the final 2020 initiation circle to become initiated as an energy weaver, to learn all of this, to not just learn it, but to actually live it, live out the end of 2020 from a completely different space, completely different. When you do level 1, you will have so many 5D experiences. You're like, whoa, in your body, in your known experience all the time. Then let me know. Say, I would like the circle details on this thread, and I will send them to you. There is only a couple spaces left. We start in a week. So if you're keen, this is the time to jump in. And you may like to play your higher self game with this, right? And I seriously will honor. If you're a no, you're a no. If you're a yes, you're a yes, right? Will you honor? That's the question. Okay. I feel like none of you really wanted to engage with me today. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I had a really clear channel transmission. I didn't really use my notes today because I was just like, nah, I'm not going to keep giving you gazillion content. I'm going to slow it all down. Because what I really wanted to give you was a very clear, energetic transmission about your mastery, about your highest service, about where you are being asked to step into around truth, around higher self, and around perceived limitations, because all of that is out the window, right? And if that is a reality that you want to experience on a day-to-day basis, come be an energy weaver, right? But not doing that, you still want to be working this path, right? If you want to be an advanced mastery practitioner, like higher level, no muggling, then you need to walk your talk and you need to commit, you need to step up. That's how we rise out of 2020 proactively rather than just respond and react to what is coming at us. Okay, my loves, I am going to let this go today and I will check the comments. Please do, if you feel inspired, give me some comments. Let me know how this is landing. What was your takeaway? What was your insight? And if you have any questions. And so for all my beautiful quiet lurkers this morning that I can see, much love to you. If you'd like to leave a comment, I would love to know who was here and how it was for you. And that tomorrow, same time tomorrow, we have our Akashic Soul Review. I am going to activate you all. I'm going to bring you all into the Akashic plane. In the Akashic group field. This is a little different to having a private Akashic session with me, right? And you are actually in the Akashic field going to do a soul review process with your higher self in attendance, with the ascension energy running in your body proactively, with the ascended masters present. I'm going to take you through it all, and you are going to journal directly from higher self. Oh yeah, and do a big soul review. Okay, it is a fully engaged process tomorrow. I would love for you to come live because the field is even stronger when you're live. You'll feel the field in the replay. I'm not going to tell you it won't work because it will, and that'd be bullshit to lie, right? But it is stronger and more powerful if I'm holding the field here for you, right? Live. So if that inspires you, then come and do it live. And I understand if you can't, And of course, in the quantum universe, multidimensionally, it's all still going to work, but it's pretty awesome to do it live with you. Okay, much love, everyone. I'm going to talk to you later. Bye-bye.